This is 7 News Adelaide with Gertie Spurling.
Good afternoon. The AFL has issued Ken Hinkley a please explain after the Port Adelaide coach's heated exchange with Hawthorn players. It's taken the shine off last night's thrilling win, with the Power now on the verge of its first grand final in 17 years. Josh Money has more from Alberton.
Players and staff are still celebrating a famous night for Port Adelaide, but some of the gloss has been taken off the club's biggest win in years by the post-game actions of coach Ken Hinkley that have left the Hawthorn Football Club incensed.
And Ken going back at him, gee, that's very, very interesting. You don't see that very often, a player and a coach going at it.
We had a very young player who was having had some very aggressive words said to him by a much older man who's been in the game for a long time, and the captain of my club stood up for him.
It's not the first time that Ken's done that, won't be the last, but it's an emotional game and sometimes it gets the better of us.
Moments after the Power's thrilling 3-point semi-final win, Hinkley took aim at young Hawk star Jack Ginnivan, whose midweek comments suggested his side was destined for next Friday's preliminary final in Sydney.
I had some words with a Hawthorn player that I wish I hadn't had in a moment that I shouldn't have had. But it was an emotional game, a big result. There was stuff said during last week that I certainly didn't enjoy. But I shouldn't have let that moment get to me.
Hinkley has drawn criticism from some of the game's greats, but had the full support of jubilant fans outside Adelaide Oval.
Good night, Ginnivan. Well done. See you in 14 days, mate.
Ken Hinkley in for 10 years, that's it. Sign Ken for another 10, baby.
Well coached Ken Hinkley. Ken Hinkley keeps his job.
Amid the joy, there's devastation for Todd Marshall. The luckless forward ruled out of the prelim final after failing a second concussion test last night. There's better news for Jason Horne-Francis, the star midfielder this morning, brushing off his own injury concerns.
It might have been a corky or something like that, I'm not sure. We've assessed it today and I've got all my strength and everything like that, and I can walk around and it feels good, so we should be all right.
Last night's thriller was littered with talking points. We'll have even more reaction and fallout in 7 News at 6 o'clock.
And die-hard Port fans are already making travel plans for next week's prelim, although many admit they're being forced to abandon a trip to Sydney due to hefty flight prices. Major airlines are cashing in on the Power's success, with fares more than doubling overnight. The minimum for a one-way trip will now set you back at least $670.
Well, I'd really love to go, but I can't afford it. When you're on a pension, it's a bit difficult.
Last week it was $700 for two of us return. We booked them as soon as the siren went and it was $1,200 return. It was like, wow, but it's amazing what we do for the love of our club.
Tickets to the final at the SCG go on sale Monday, with members given first dibs. For those fans staying in SA, Alberton Oval will be the place to be. The club will host an official event with a big screen and seating on the Oval. Housing Trust tenants at a notorious Nova Gardens block are living in fear after another unit was torched by arsonists overnight. A family in an adjoining unit fled for their lives as emergency services raced to the scene. Peter Caldecott reports.
Neighbours grabbed hoses and frantically tried to put out the flames when the blaze broke out of this unit block just before 10:30 last night. Unit 17, where the fire started, was empty, but next door, a grandmother and her son and 2 grandchildren were having dinner.
He's got his kids, told his mum, let's get out of here, grabbed what they could and got out. And then his son's running around like a mad idiot trying to put the fire out.
Massive flames were leaping out through a front window.
It was reaching up to the top of the tree here and coming out the windows like just rolling out the windows. It was horrible, horrible sight.
Firefighters battled the intense blaze and managed to stop it spreading to other units, but the 2 homes have been destroyed. It's the latest in a string of arson attacks at the Housing Trust complex. Last week, 2 more units were destroyed just around the corner in Montreal Avenue in a huge fireball. Then in June, a vacant unit opposite the fire last night was targeted.
There's 5 fires now, and it's been lucky there's been no lives or animals or anybody injured.
Who's doing this? Look at the other one. You know, just the other day, there's someone lighting fires. We could die. Someone could die from the fire.
I want to get out, and I applied for a transfer, and I was told, no, you're not getting one. Stop the letters. You're trapped here.
Damage to the unit block has been estimated at $250,000.
A motorbike rider's lucky to be alive after colliding with two cars on North East Road at Hillcrest just before 8 o'clock last night. It's understood he fell off his bike after hitting a car that was heading in the same direction. His motorbike then slid down the road and smashed into a second car. The 37-year-old rider was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A city service station attendant has been traumatised by a bandit armed with a knife. The man walked into the Pulteney Street OTR on the corner of Angus Street just before 9 o'clock last night. He threatened the worker and demanded money. The suspect fled on foot with cash and other items. No one was injured. A 42-year-old mother has been charged with the murder of her two boys in the New South Wales Blue Mountains. Amy Clements was in court as new details emerged about their deaths.
Wearing a hospital gown and with her left arm in a cast, Patricia Smith appeared this morning via video link from jail.
It's an absolute tragedy in this particular respect, and there's a lot of people out there hurting, right from emergency services who had to attend the scene, and parents, grandparents and the like.
Smith has now been charged with 2 counts of murder after 11-year-old Russell and 9-year-old Ben were found dead inside their Falconbridge home. Police say she killed them sometime between 7:30 Monday night and 12:30 Tuesday afternoon when the boys' father found them dead. We've spoken to Trish. How is she doing?
Thanks, guys. Nothing more to say.
3 women, understood to be friends, were at court for the mother's appearance.
It goes against nature in many ways.
Smith had a documented history of psychological issues.
It can be mental illness, it can be severe depression.
From the Penrith Panthers, where the boys were members, they'll be in our thoughts during the NRL finals. From the boys' family, we would love their memory to live long through this club. Smith will face court again in November.
We've just got to let the course take its natural course in respect to getting the paperwork and going from there.
The 42-year-old kept her head bowed for most of the brief hearing and thanked the magistrate at the end.
The driver convicted over the New South Wales wedding bus tragedy looks set to appeal his sentence. 59-year-old Brett Button was jailed for a maximum of 32 years over the disastrous crash that killed 10 people. His defence team lodged a notice of their intention to appeal yesterday afternoon, but no dates have been set for the process to begin. The use of Western missiles in Ukraine is at the centre of high-level talks between the US President and UK Prime Minister. But Vladimir Putin says the move would put NATO and Russia dangerously close to all-out war. Joel Dry reports.
There has been a lot on the line as British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has met with US President Joe Biden to discuss the further expansion use of Western missiles within Russian territory.
Putin will not prevail in this war, and the people of Ukraine will prevail.
Given all that's going on, there are a lot of tensions simmering in Eastern Europe at the moment. That has been made evident by the expulsion of 6 British diplomats from Russia, with the Russian Security Service, the FSB, saying that they had received documents indicating that Britain has involvement in inflicting a strategic defeat on Russia, something the British Foreign Office has said is completely baseless. But the big talking point at the moment, as well as the expulsion, is the possibility that UK and French missiles will be given the green light to strike targets deep in Russian territory.
In my opinion, not likely to change the outcome of the conflict. No strategic difference, but it would help them to defend themselves.
It's something that Russia says would constitute an all-out war between Western powers and Russia, who is, of course, a nuclear power. So a lot on the line as these important talks get underway between the US and Britain in Washington.
South Aussie steaks are now sizzling on American barbecues as export numbers explode. After the break, just how much money our beef is raking in. Plus, see Justin Timberlake's serious message to fans as part of a courtroom plea deal. The Pope slams both US presidential candidates, telling voters to choose the lesser evil. And a low-speed pursuit sees a citizen's arrest on board a golf buggy. South Australia's red meat sales have skyrocketed. Latest data shows the US has purchased nearly $200 million worth of our beef. The state's seen a 280% growth in the year to July.
We don't want to be a one-trick pony here in South Australia. We know that the success of our exports rest with ensuring that we get the best of South Australia to as many places around the world as we can.
America is South Australia's second largest export market after China. Justin Timberlake has lost his licence for driving while his ability was impaired. The singer is now using his legal trouble to urge others not to drink and drive. Miley Hogan explains.
Justin Timberlake has described his actions as a mistake and has asked others to avoid drinking and driving. The singer pleaded guilty to driving while ability impaired, a lesser charge than what he was originally hit with after making a plea deal with prosecutors. That charge that he agreed to plead guilty to is not a criminal charge, it's a traffic violation, and as part of that, he will lose his licence for 3 months and will need to complete community service. But the judge also wanted the superstar to use his platform to make a public plea and bring awareness to the dangers of driving while impaired.
I try to hold myself to a very high standard for myself, and this was not that. So what I'd like to say to everyone watching and listening, even if you've had one drink, don't get behind the wheel of a car.
Back in June, the singer was arrested on suspicion of driving while intoxicated. The arresting officer said that he saw Justin Timberlake run a stop sign and then veer onto the wrong side of the road. That same officer also noted that the singer's eyes were bloodshot and that he smelt of alcohol. Justin Timberlake also failed the in-field sobriety test. He was charged but pleaded not guilty to that higher charge of driving while intoxicated. He has now reached that plea deal with prosecutors. His lawyer maintains that the singer only consumed 1 martini over a 2-hour period.
The NASA astronauts stuck in space say they don't feel let down by Boeing after technical issues with their spacecraft turned an 8-day mission into 8 months.
Trying times, and this is, my daughter's, I'm going to miss most of her senior year in high school, my youngest daughter. And my oldest daughter is a sophomore at East Texas Baptist University, and I wasn't able to be with her during the summer.
This is my happy place. I love being up here in space.
Given the pair is going to be stuck 400 kilometres above Earth until next year, they've even cast an absentee vote in the upcoming US election. And the Pope has weighed in on the US election, criticising both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Both are against life, whether it's the one who is chasing away migrants or the one who kills children. Both are against life. I cannot decide. I cannot say.
Pope Francis says Americans will have to choose the lesser evil. Well, it was far from a high-speed chase, but police were hot on the tail of this thief after he pinched a golf buggy from a parking lot in Arkansas. The man took it for a brief joyride before a Good Samaritan intervened, performing a citizen's arrest. Police have praised the man's actions. The bandit was taken to hospital with a minor head injury. Still to come on 7 News, sport with a very happy ABBA as a power gun gets the all clear after last night's dramatic semi-final win over Hawthorn. And off the mark, a milestone moment for Cricket Australia's hottest young star.
Good afternoon. Port Adelaide star Jason Horne-Francis has been given the all-clear after he left the field in the arms of trainers in the dying stages of last night's 3-point semi-final win over Hawthorn. Players gathered at Alberton this morning basking in the glory of one of the best wins in club history. Horne-Francis leaving nothing in the tank.
Worst cramp I've ever got. Just trying to get off the ground, couldn't get off, and the ball ended up coming to me as well, so I had to try deal with that. But I was trying to get off and just couldn't get off.
The news isn't so good for Todd Marshall. The forward has already been ruled out of next Friday's prelim final against Sydney after suffering another concussion. Mitch Georgiades starred with 3 goals, 2 coming in the last term, as the Power held on at the death. Hawks captain James Sicily missed the chance to win it in the final minutes as Port edged it 75-72.
It was a really good game of footy and tough game of footy, and Hawthorn had certainly been hard work for everyone to try and beat, and to do what we were able to do tonight was a great performance.
Defender Lockie Jones could come under scrutiny for this tackle on Hawks forward Mabia Chol. We'll have more reaction, including an exclusive chat with young star Jason Burgoyne in our news at 6. In the AFLW, Port Adelaide is hosting Fremantle at Alberton Oval in what is the first ever meeting between the two sides. Like last night, the Power brought the pressure in the opening term, registering 25 tackles to 10. After a 4-goal game last week, Julia Teakle continued her red-hot form.
With it, jams it on the boot, the snapper around the corner is through! Port Adelaide strike first.
Port found the going a little tougher against the Breeze in the second term and lead by a point at half-time. Jake Fraser-McGurk hit a maiden international half-century after being recalled for the Game 2 of Australia's T20 series with England. After struggling against Scotland, the 22-year-old hit 50 off 31 balls, and Australia 6 for 193.
Up! Is it long enough? It is. That's an incredible shot, actually.
But Liam Livingstone hammered 87 off 47 balls, leading England to a 3-wicket victory. The series is level at 1-1. Melbourne's weather caused chaos for the supercars at the Sandown 500. Wild winds, rain and even a hailstorm sent fans running for cover. Will Davison sent his Mustang flying into the wall in practice. Aaron Love came off much worse for wear in qualifying.
Ended up sitting on top of the curb there, zero grip, and then it's back the left-hand side of the car into the wall down there and given it a fair tear up.
Brock Feeney qualified fastest for the top 10 shootout ahead of tomorrow's race. Ferrari Charles Leclerc had a disastrous start to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, crashing early into the opening practice session.
Charles Leclerc is in the wall at turn 15, and that is a heavy hit straight into the wall.
Max Verstappen came very close to putting his Red Bull into the wall later on. After rapid repairs, Leclerc finished fastest in practice. Oscar Piastri is 5th. That's our sport for now. We'll have plenty more at our main bulletin at 6 o'clock. Right now, I'm going back to watch the last 10 minutes again from last night.
How many times have you done that?
A few. Don't worry. We keep winning. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Bruce. It's been a cool and cloudy spring day across Adelaide, but we're in for some sunshine tomorrow. I'll have the details after the break.
In 7 News, finding cheap medications online.
People are struggling to afford their medicines.
Is what you're buying safe?
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Plus, from cut-price chemists to supermarkets, we compare the cost of everyday health items. A 7 News consumer report next week.
Elspeth Hussey has our main bulletin at 6. And Elle, what's coming up?
Well, Gertie, just a short time ago, Port's CEO Matthew Richardson spoke to the media about Ken Hinckley's post-match outburst that's divided the footy world. Hear what he's had to say about his head coach's antics, plus reaction from the AFL, Hawthorn and from footy fans. Plus, we have everything you need to know about prelim tickets and flights to Sydney, plus an update on Port's injury list, who'll be fit to take on the Swans. Also tonight, we speak to Eastern Suburbs residents who are up in arms about plans to build a 20-storey tower they say will block their view. And on Selling SA this week, we head to Birdwood, where a slice of Hills history has hit the market. It's now a rustic bed and breakfast, so if you feel like a little bit of a lifestyle change, this one might be absolutely perfect for you. So all those stories and plenty more coming up tonight at 6.
Thanks, Elle. I think I'll stay by the beach, though. To the weather now. It's been a cool and cloudy day across much of the state, with some light showers too. In the city, after a low of 6 degrees, we hit a top of just 16 at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, it's 12. Around the country, a cold front's pushing across Tassie and Victoria, bringing with it showers, hail and even low-level snow. It's just 5 in Hobart, 10 in Melbourne. Sydney could see a light shower tonight, sitting on 20 at the moment. Out in the west, warm and sunny, currently 26 degrees in Perth. That cold front over the southeast is pushing some cold air and light showers our way. A high-pressure system is keeping most of the state dry. Sunny and mild in the far north tomorrow. 22 is the top for Cooper Pedy, 20 for Roxby, windy and 19 for Woomera. Cold at first with areas of frost across the agricultural area. 15 is the top for Port Lincoln, 18 for Whyalla, 19 for Port Pirie and Renmark, 17 is the top for Kadina, 15 for Edithburgh and Kingscote, 14 for Nuriota, Victor and a cloudy day is in store for Mount Gambier. There's also a frost warning for the mid-north region, Mount Lofty Ranges, Murraylands and parts of the southeast too. And there are strong wind forecasts about the following coasts. In the city, it's dropping down to just 5 degrees overnight. 17 is the forecast top. It'll be a lovely sunny day, but winds easing slightly in the evening. And we could see some frost develop about the northern suburbs on Monday morning, but I'll have more on that in the full forecast tonight. That's all the news for now. Elspeth Hussey will have all the day's top stories at 6 o'clock. From me, it's bye for now.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.